Hi there, good morning. Welcome back to Colorado and Company. You know, it's been almost 3 years since the devastating earthquake that shook Nepal. The people who live in remote villages in the Himalayas are still recovering. This school was destroyed in the earthquake, and now it's close to being completely rebuilt. All of this work is done with the help of a nonprofit known as MountainChild. From rebuilding schools to providing health services and even clean water, MountainChild is continuing its mission in 2018 to carry hope to people of the Himalayas. Josh Duncan is here with more. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
You were just there in November, correct?
I was.
Have you seen positive changes, positive growth?
Yeah, I had the blessing of being able to go into the remote villages and trek for about 7 days in an area called the Nupri Valley, which is an area that is about 7 days trek away from the nearest road. And we've been working there for about 15 years. And so the opportunity to be able to see villagers, see infrastructure that's been built, see staff that are sacrificially and joyfully doing it, living out basically in these remote villages to care for villagers who don't have a whole lot.
And children. And you know what's interesting about you? You first visited Nepal before the earthquake.
Yeah.
So you saw before and then after the devastation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this area and the remote villages were decimated by the 2015 earthquakes. About 90% of homes were completely destroyed. And the construction out there is typically just stone. So it was stacked stones that when the earth shake, it just tends to collapse. But the progress that's being made is pretty incredible. Seeing, you know, a school that previously didn't exist where now children are able to get an education, or a health post where villagers previously had to hike 7 days to get just basic medical treatment.
7 days?
Yeah, 7 days.
Oh my goodness. So what projects are you focusing on right now currently?
Yeah, so this year we've got some new projects that we're launching. One is called our Health Airlift Operation, which we also refer to it as HALO, and it is the first emergency medical service that's going to be offered to remote villagers. And these are for extreme cases of just medical needs where the basic medical care that you would get in a remote village won't suffice, really life-threatening. We're also rebuilding a school in Jagat this year, which is another remote village where the school was destroyed in the earthquake. And we're also beginning to do work in the far west region of Nepal called the Kanali district.
So you have a lot on your plate,
We
a
do.
lot to accomplish.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to help out, you can go to their website at the bottom of the screen there. It's mountainchild.org, mountainchild.org. We just saw a picture of the helicopter. It's so vital for the helicopter health program. Explain what changes you've seen and why it's so important.
Yeah, sometimes I think the best way to describe a program is through a story. And we began this, the HALO project at the end of last year. And one of our first cases was a 3-month-old baby that essentially was on its deathbed. And so we were able to helicopter her and her mother out and into Kathmandu, where we have other partners that we work with to provide immediate medical care and also rehabilitation. And now this baby is doing well, and mom and baby Sonam are back in the remote villages. And so it's a tangible way to meet people at their greatest time of need and be able to support them well.
You are changing lives for sure. Nearly 3 years ago with the earthquake, which was just devastating to the region. Talk about how MountainChild stepped in when that happened.
Yeah, you know, you invest a lot of time and energy getting into these, and you build relationships over years. And so when the earthquake hit, it was really neat to see our staff who, you know, were also in a time of need because they had, you know, experienced the earthquake themselves, their families had, but they all dropped everything and began to invest all of their energy into supporting these remote villagers. And so that looked like bringing blankets and tarps and strapping on a backpack full of clean water filters and hiking them out into these remote areas so that villagers could have clean water and avoid cholera outbreaks and begin the whole restoration process and rebuilding process. And so there's been a lot of work that's been done in the last 3 years. There's a lot of progress, but there's still a lot that needs to be done.
And those are things that we just take for granted every single day here, you know, in America. So it's nice that you're blessing other people by bringing one of those $50 water filters.
Right.
You have 5 core issues that MountainChild works on.
Yeah.
Talk about those.
Yeah, so our 5 core issues are all core issues that affect these children in the Himalayas, and they're all intertwined, but it's health, education, child trafficking, child labor, and the environment. And like this month alone is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, so it's a great month to spotlight just human trafficking that is going on throughout all of the world. The Himalayas are not immune to that, and actually in Nepal alone, they estimate about 15 to 20,000 children each year are trafficked in Nepal. So we focus in on those 5 core issues.
That's devastating. And looking at those pictures of those sweet little faces of those children, to see that they're suffering in so many different ways. You also offer a program. It's called the WASH program.
Yeah. So WASH stands for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene, and it's actually a really critical program. And what it does is it focuses in on the significance of clean water, what adequate sanitation and appropriate sanitation can do in improving lives, and then also basic hygiene like cleaning your hands, brushing your teeth. UNICEF actually did a study a few years ago, and they looked at child mortality rates of children under 5, and they looked at different, programs like clean water, sanitation, and they found that education alone reduces child mortality rates by 40%. So just by teaching people about the importance of clean water, sanitation, and hygiene, you can actually reduce child mortality rates.
Josh, it's so interesting, your story too, if you wouldn't mind sharing, because you were pursuing the American dream, like a full-time engineer, true?
Yeah.
How did you get involved, and how did this change your life?
Yeah, so I was a consulting engineer. My background was in water resource engineering, and was pursuing the American dream, and I went to Nepal 6 years ago. I got introduced to MountainChild and wanted to learn about them. I had a lot of just personal passions like trekking and clean water and photography and all these different things, and learned about MountainChild and the work that they were doing amongst these children, and went on just an exploratory trip and trekked in the Himalayas for 7 days, and I call it a crisis of encounter, where when I experienced this, it literally turned my world upside right, and I came back and came back and sat down with my wife, and we began a journey that 6 months later I left consulting engineering to become a full-time staff member with MountainChild.
A full-time angel. Yeah. Really, you are. God bless you. Thank you for everything that you're doing and
for
sharing your story.
Yeah.
There are 3 ways for you to support the work of MountainChild. You can actually give the greatest need for one of the many long-term projects. You can also choose to give to core issues such as health or education. Now, the last way you can help is to support a field worker. Learn more online. Go to mountainchild.org. That's mountainchild.org, or call 720-598-7360.